first easiest thing to do would be to go through somewhere like where this is from, or somewhere who ships with Dragon Courier, and that's only available out of Thailand, I believe. But Equigenera is a big South American company, and they both handle the import permit side of things and phytosanitary and everything, so you can just give them your address and you can have the plants shipped to you without any of this stress. It'll still be stressful because they go through a rigorous cleaning process to get all growing media, soil, bugs. I'm sure there's tons of chemicals, pesticides. If I do another import, I think it would be wise to wear gloves, which I kind of scoffed at Kaylee Ellen before for doing that, but it makes sense because you don't know what kind of harsh chemicals and residues are still on these plants. You kind of want to be safe that way. The roots are probably going to come in really rough shape, and thuriums tend to ship really well. This leaf and this leaf came in to me in August, and they haven't dropped yet. It's a pretty hardy anthurium with nice texture. I love this plant. I would definitely shop from Equigenera again. I got this one from them as well, also luxurians. They were a gift, and the person buying them for me wasn't sure if I wanted an anthurium or a philodendron, and so I got both, and they're really sentimental, special plants to me, and I'm really glad I was able to revive this one. This one was in pretty rough shape, but I did all the tricks in the book, and I cut off the rotted part of the stem, and I managed to re-root just the top in moss, and now I've got it in pond. I grow almost everything in Lacusa pond. It works great for acclimating imports after you soak them in water for a bit. I will show you how I have most of my anthuriums in self-watering pots. I like Lacusa's pots. I have some more ordered off Amazon. This guy's due for a repot, and you can see they grow nice healthy roots in pond. So reservoirs are really easy because you don't get the crispy tips and stuff when you underwater. So Equigenera is great. I will definitely order through them again. It was really easy. They had a pop-up orchid show at Southlands Nursery in the Greater Vancouver area, so I took a ferry over there to pick them up. It was quite a long day trip with 2 kids, but it was really fun. Definitely not the most COVID-friendly experience. It was a little jam-packed, but they had a lot of beautiful plants, and I ended up buying an orchid from Southlands Nursery because I got a little overwhelmed with all the people kind of jostling to get their plants and look at the plants that all the different vendors had. But it was definitely a fun experience and successful, and I'd definitely recommend them. I haven't shipped through Dragon Courier yet. I know they had some issues with syngoniums, and there was some controversy that different nurseries quit using Dragon Courier because whole shipments were confiscated and destroyed, and that's going to be devastating for people when they try to do everything the right way and play by the rules, and then someone else kind of drops the ball. So hopefully they've resolved that issue. I'll definitely research it more if I do choose to import from Thailand, but I've got a pretty substantial collection now that I'm trying to only kind of do cuttings and trades, and gifting plants and gifting cuttings is really fun. So if you guys want to pay it forward, plant it forward, pick someone random who's gonna buy a plant off of you and just give it to them for free, and they will be so happy, and it makes you feel good. They'll send you growth updates and stuff, and why not have a happy planty community instead of people trying to hustle and swindle and sell tiny little pieces of plants for half of what they paid, or flip plants unacclimated, or flip plants that they just bought the day before for double. That it shouldn't all be about profit, and hopefully we can have a good community of people who actually enjoy the hobby and don't just see dollar signs when they look at plants. So the first step of actually importing your own plants, finding a seller yourself, organizing the courier yourself, is getting an import permit. So you need to fill in your name, your address. For the exporter, you need a different import permit for each country that you choose to import from. And so for me, I chose Indonesia because that's where I found my great seller from. And I just wrote various This permit's good for 3 years, and I can choose anyone in Indonesia as my exporter because I didn't say one specific person with an address, so that worked out really well. I got help from the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. I sent a few emails back and forth with how to fill this out because I wanted to leave it as open as possible and be able to import as many aeroids as possible. So for the description of things, for the importation of, I did Syngonium, and the other ones I just listed aren't automatically on the CFIA list, even though they are allowed to be imported into Canada. So just make sure you double check what you are trying to import is allowed in Canada, because we don't want invasive species and stuff. So number 1, the Phytosanitary certificate needs to accompany the shipment. Number 2, the material must be free of all growing media, soil, and or related matter. So the funny thing with this is that you are allowed to ship in moss, so don't have sellers tell you that they can ship in paper towel and that's just as good as moss. Moss is better at retaining moisture and not rotting and adding aeration and stuff. The issue is that you cannot have the plants grown in moss, but they can be packed in clean, sterile moss. So don't ship plants with roots all grown into the moss, but to pack them to ship is totally fine after they've gone through phyto. The final thing is that it must be certified free from soil pests, and the following declaration must appear on the Phytosanitary certificate. So in your order, I ship with DHL. I don't know what other couriers there are. The other thing you can do is cargo shipping, which is really expensive, but if you want to do a huge group order or something, cargo shipping would be the way to go because it's much faster. With DHL, you want to make sure before the shipment lands, you email DHL your import permit, number 1, your phytosanitary certificate that your seller is responsible for, that's number 2. They will send you a copy once it clears phyto. And number 3, you want a copy of your invoice, and you want them to have the country of origin, which is strange, but it had a signature, it had the exporter's name and stuff, but it needed a country of origin that DHL and customs were worried about. So don't forget that one little thing and send that all to DHL, they will handle it. This guy survived my first shipment and a few bottom cuttings since. So the leaves were pretty mangled from cold damage. I had it arrive in January of 2021, and so it got cold overnight, it got stuck in a truck. Luckily, I think the box was insulated pretty well, but the outer plants got pretty damaged. I lost a Warocquianum, I lost a pretty good sized Splendid, I lost a Melanochrysum, I lost a few expensive plants to cold damage. I lost a Jose Bueno, but luckily enough, my seller replaced a few of those on my next order, so that was really, really, really nice of them because they normally don't export to Canada. I was their very first customer, and with our research and learning together, we had it all work out, but it was quite the experience, and I think I'm still their only customer in Canada, so maybe we could change that and drive up some business for some nice, honest people who work hard and grow a lot of things themselves. And they have a really rotating, interesting collection, so you can check back on Tokopedia every week or 2 or day if you don't want to miss out on something special. But yeah, this Albo was my wishlist plant and kind of why I did the import. And I definitely got carried away, and I had like 60 something plants on my first import, and then, oh man, I forget on the next. And I think the final import I had like 112 or 113, and that was just too much for me to take on with 2 kids and 1 kid teething and not enough sleep And so it was a really fun learning experience, but I wouldn't recommend pushing like 60 plants to import on your own. That's a lot of work, unwrapping, soaking the roots, potting up or leaving in water, whatever you want to do, and checking on them daily because they could crash at any minute from the shock of the phytosanitary cleaning. There's one other thing you can do is go through a company called Mega International, and you can do cargo shipping. So this is another whole learning experience that your seller may or may not know how to do cargo shipping. But what happens is they get a priority spot that's flying to wherever you want them to go to at a major airport. So this is only available at Toronto Pearson International Airport and YVR International Airport in Vancouver. So 2 places in Canada. If you live close enough, you can do cargo shipping. And so what you do there is you ask your seller to do cargo shipping. It will get handled by, in my case, Mega International, that's really close to the airport. Add in a quick little map shot of where you go here because it's kind of confusing, and you're going to be driving past all the cargo trucks and mail trucks, and there's DHL and I forget who else, but there's huge parking lots full of all these shipping companies where they organize shipments and distribute them. So the first thing you do is go to Mega International, and then it's a pretty quick drive, or you could walk if you don't have kids. I drove because I had 2 kids in the truck with me, and then I went to customs, and you do a self-clearance. You get all the paperwork from Mega International, including you need a copy of your import permit, phytosanitary documentation, and invoice. So you bring all those things, get them cleared at customs, pay the duties and taxes. They will give you a certificate of clearance, and then you take that paperwork back to Mega International, and they will release your shipment. And so you have to wait around a bit for them to dig it out of their warehouse. But it was a really fun learning experience, and it's a way faster way to ship than instead of DHL. I think my first order might have taken like 10 or 13 days or something. This took 2 or 3 days, so it was much faster doing cargo shipping. The plants arrived in much better health in general, and it worked great. Overall, importing super fun. The takeaway that you guys need to know and understand though is that anytime you import, you have to be willing to gamble everything and lose it all. That if it's not worth it to have all of the plants die on you and lose all of the money you've spent, then don't bother importing, because there's a good chance that could happen. Stuff happens with COVID, with mail, with Ramadan, things got delayed. So I was super lucky. I haven't had a complete failed import yet, but it could happen at any time, and you have to be willing to take that hit. Otherwise, you can support local sellers. But yeah, that's what I learned. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions. I hope I've covered everything. You need your import permit, phytosanitary certificate that your seller will handle, and an invoice, including the country of origin for your invoice. The best thing to do is just to have one invoice with proof, with PayPal, with your credit card or whatever, so there aren't any issues with what the invoice amount was. You don't want to be stressing if your plants are going to be destroyed because you wanted to save a couple dollars in the customs office. Importing super fun. Good luck if you are getting anything in. Oh, I almost forgot my seller. Her name is Ari. On Instagram it's Taman Arisha. She is great. Please don't harass her for questions and stuff unless you're seriously wanting to import, because I don't want her to be overwhelmed with a ton of interest and then no people following through. You can check out prices on the link in her Instagram to her Tokopedia site. Tokopedia is like Etsy in Indonesia. So on Tokopedia you can see prices in IDR, Indonesian rupiah, kind of like CID, you can just plug that into Google for converting money from Indonesian rupiah to Canadian dollars if you're here in Canada, eh? And you can get a rough estimate of what it would cost. If you pay through PayPal, she will ask you to cover the extra PayPal fee because she's not used to having money conversions and stuff, and she shouldn't have to bear that cost when she's already providing plants for fair prices. Or you can do a bank wire transfer. So you have to physically go into the bank and have the correct address, which gets a little confusing, and send a wire transfer directly. That's what I would do now because I trust her, but for a brand new seller, if you find someone else on Tokopedia, go through PayPal and don't do friends and family, do PayPal, just the regular, whatever it comes up with. It'll be business and you can send money that way with it being traceable and returnable, refundable. If something goes wrong or if it's a scam or something, you don't want to be on the hook for hundreds or thousands of dollars. Let me know if you have any more questions I can help with. My Instagram is at 2littlemonsteras because I love monsteras and I love my 2 little children that I kind of created this plant habit in full swing when I was pregnant with my second born, and it's kind of developed since. They like to join me. They like to tickle plants. My son loves the bumpy plant. This is his favorite. And my daughter loves opening and closing the Millsbo cabinet doors, and we haven't had any serious casualties yet, but we have had a few trimmings, and one of my original monsters, just a green Deliciosa, it has seen some better days, but it's war wounds and signs that they've been having a life well loved and enjoyed, and leaves don't grow perfect in the forest anyways, so you gotta take the good with the bad and help them learn and explore. And yeah, it's been a really fun journey, and it's kind of sad. I feel like I'm nearing the end of learning about importing, and I can't really import that many plants unless I get another house or a heated greenhouse outside, or move to Indonesia or somewhere like that. That would be really cool. I could have a whole wonderful jungle garden. Yeah, importing plants is super fun. You should try it if you like the gamble. Thanks for watching.